You know, there's an old saying that goes, the game isn't over until the final whistle blows. Well, the Dallas Cowboys proved that saying to be false when they destroyed and dismantled the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football 40-0. And it didn't take the referee blowing the final whistle for us to know this game was over. This game was over at halftime when it was 26-0. The New York Giants, this is a really demoralizing loss for them. Do you know how embarrassing it is to get blown out in an NFL game? 40-0? You mean to tell me that you couldn't put no points up on the board on offense? With all of the free agent acquisitions that the New York Giants brought in, Paris Campbell, you trade for Darren Waller in free agency, then you have a really good draft, you get Jalen Hyatt, John Michael Smith, and you have so much optimism going into week one just to have it snatched out of your soul by the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys showed in this game why they need to be viewed as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. If you didn't believe in the Cowboys being able to make it out of the NFC prior to this game, you might need to start reevaluating your expectations for the Dallas Cowboys this year. This team is legit, and a large reason for why the Cowboys have a great chance at being able to finally win it all this year is because of this defense. This defense gave the New York Giants offense zero room to operate. Obviously, when you look at how this defensive line manhandled the New York Giants offensive line up front, it obviously was a big reason why the Giants offense couldn't get anything going. Michael Parsons was humming off the side. You had anybody who was getting blocked by Evan Neal having a big impact on the game. Dante Fowler. When's the last time you heard that name? I haven't heard that name in years. He was making his presence felt in this game. Evan Neal, in year two, we thought we were going to see some major steps in development. And after his week one performance against Dallas, I'm kind of going to start leaning towards labeling him a bust. Because it doesn't take long to figure out if a guy can or cannot play. Offensive tackle, corner, wide receiver, linebacker are instant impact positions, meaning that it doesn't take long for a guy to show you how good he is. When you're playing cornerback, wide receiver, or any position on the offensive line, you don't need 3 to 4 years to develop. It's a plug-and-play position. Either you can play or you can't, and it doesn't take too long to find out that. Evan Neal doesn't look like he's a good pick. It looks like it was a bust. And for the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, they obviously look like they were ready to play for this game. Meanwhile, Brian Daboll and the New York Giants, I mean, did they even prepare for the Dallas Cowboys? Did they know what the hell they were walking into in this game? Because it didn't look like it. And then for the life of me, why would they leave Daniel Jones in for the limp that they did when this game was already out of hand? I mean, this dude was getting whacked back there like a whack-a-mole. The offensive line can't protect him. It's raining. It's a downpour. He's getting big hit after big hit. I don't get why Brian Daboll will leave their franchise quarterback in the game for him to get beat down like that. It wouldn't make no sense to me. You might as well go ahead and let Tyrod Taylor take the beat down from the terrible offensive line play rather than letting your franchise quarterback take it in the game that pretty much is all but over. The Dallas Cowboys, this is one of the best teams in the NFL. This is one of the best teams that the Dallas Cowboys have had in a very long time. This defensive line, stacked. DeMarcus Lawrence, Mozzie Smith, Michael Parsons, Dante Fowler. They got depth. They got talent on all phases of this defensive line. They got guys who can get after the quarterback, guys who can plug and stop the run. The linebackers are really good. The cornerback position is better than what it was last year. Stephon Gilmore brings a really different element to this secondary that Dallas didn't have in the past. In the past, it was Trayvon Diggs, and you have to pray to God that you could get some serviceable play out of your second cornerback position. The second cornerback spot has been a huge carousel for the Dallas Cowboys. Stephon Gilmore has finally filled that weakness that Dallas has had on this defense for over 2 years. This is a defense that has absolutely no weaknesses. There's not really a lot of ways that you can attack and exploit this defense if you can't defend against this defensive line in this pass rush. The Giants offense, they got exposed in this game. I don't think it's just week one rust. I think that the Dallas Cowboys exposed that the Giants don't have a talented enough team to be able to make it to the playoffs with them having one of the most difficult schedules in the NFL this season. If your wide receivers are struggling against the Dallas Cowboys secondary, what do you think they're going to do against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Washington Commanders, who also have a really solid secondary and a really good defensive line? How are you going to match up against some of the better teams on your schedule if you don't have a good offensive line or wide receivers that can consistently create separation? Paris Campbell was a mid-free agent signing. He's not a true number one wide receiver. You don't have that on your team right now. You got Darren Waller, who is a good number one option when he's healthy. But outside of him, you mean to tell me that you look at Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton and think these are guys who are going to be able to get it done against some of the top teams in the league? Stop it. We got to be realistic. And Giants fans got mad at me when I said this wasn't a playoff team before the season. And it kind of looks like I was proven right, judging by the result of this game. Let's be honest. Most people didn't think that the Giants were going to be able to win this game, but nobody expected for them to get shut out 40-0 on national television in front of a national audience. Nobody expected this blowout. You expected for the Giants to at least be better than what they were last year. Giants fans all off season were hollering, we got so much better that we're going to be able to close the gap between us and the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. Well, how did that go for you? After watching this game, do you really feel like this team is better this year than what it was last year? I think that the New York Giants this offseason made lateral moves. They got a little bit better, but in terms of them separating themselves amongst the rest of the teams in this division, they didn't do a good job at that. There still is a big gap between the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders. The gap between the Giants and the Cowboys didn't really get closed. As a matter of fact, it probably got a little bit wider because Dallas looks like an even better team this season than what they were last year. The Giants' offseason was mid. Their offensive line doesn't look that improved. The receiving core isn't all that improved. And I know this is just week one. You can say, you got to stop overreacting, JT. You got to give them more time. When you get your ass beat like this bad, 40-0 week one, it's not an overreaction. When you play Dallas again, they're probably going to smash you again. Maybe not 40-0. You may be able to put some points on the board the second go around, but I doubt you beat Dallas this year. This is just a all-around better team. And with how difficult New York's schedule is this year, with what they did this offseason, I don't think that they have a good enough roster to be able to be a 9-win team with their schedule. They didn't really get too many difference makers. They got some solid pieces in free agency, but nobody who really gives them a huge advantage when they're going against the Dallas Cowboys outside of Darren Waller. And where the hell was he in this game? The Giants are in a division that's really tough, where you have two of the best teams in the NFC that you have to face off against twice a year. You're not going to be able to beat Philadelphia and New York with what you currently have on offense. You got Saquon and Darren Waller, but you need more. You could have used DeAndre Hopkins. You didn't even go after him. There were several high-profile wide receivers that the New York Giants could have used that could have gave them a big advantage in this game, but they didn't go after them. When you're going up against Stephon Gilmore and Trayvon Diggs, Isaiah Hodgins, Paris Campbell, and Darius Slayton and Jalen Hyatt are not going to get the job done. The Giants don't have a great team. They may have a solid team, but do they have a team that's good enough for them to overcome a very difficult schedule and to find a way to backdoor their way into the playoffs like they did last year? I doubt it. This offensive line was terrible. They allowed 7 sacks. It doesn't matter if it's week 1 or week 10. Your offensive line comes out and they get dominated like that. Your offensive line is a problem. I've never seen a team have this bad of a performance week 1 and then all of a sudden just turn it around. The Giants' offensive line still has some concerns at offensive guard. I like John Michael Smith at center, but I don't know who the hell they got playing guard. And it looks like Evan Neal at right tackle, he's more likely to get somebody killed at quarterback than he is to end up becoming a high caliber right tackle. I know it's just week 1. It may seem like an overreaction, but you had all off season to prepare for this game. And to get your ass beat 40-0 when you had so long to prepare for Dallas is a massive disappointment. And I think that this game is foreshadowing how tough this season is going to be for the New York Giants. Having great coaching can get you far if you're going against teams that aren't that good and don't have good coaching. But when you're going up against some of the best teams in the NFL with one of the toughest schedules in the league, good coaching with a decent roster isn't going to get you a lot of results when you're going against teams that have coaching that's just as good or better than you, with also way better teams and way better rosters. Coaching is only an advantage when you're going against marginal teams that don't have great coaching or have subpar coaching. And when you're going against the best of the best, you're going against teams that have elite rosters, elite quarterbacks, and elite head coach. The New York Giants don't have an elite roster. They got a solid roster, but not an elite roster. And Brian Daboll is an elite head coach, but elite coaching isn't going to get you far when you're going against Dallas and Philadelphia, who also have elite coaching and better rosters than you. I think that this game was a reality check for New York Giants fans that, you still have a long ways to go to catch up to Philly and the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't think Giants fans expected to be Super Bowl contenders this year or to even win this game. You probably were expecting for this to be a competitive one-possession game. And the fact that it wasn't shows you that the Giants may not be the team this season that they were last year. Coaching only gets you so far until you're going against other good coaches and other good teams. The Dallas Cowboys made a big statement Sunday night, taking apart and picking apart the New York Giants. Do you know that the Dallas Cowboys were the first team since 2009 to have a offensive, defensive, and special teams touchdown in their week 1 game? You talk about all-around domination, Jesus. You better be really, really scared when you face the Dallas Cowboys, because I really believe that this team is going to be good enough to get to the NFC Championship. I know that the Dallas Cowboys have disappointed a lot in the past, and we really shouldn't be judging them and giving them too much praise for this win, because the Cowboys are one of those teams that you can't give them credit for what they do in the regular season, because you should only be judging them by what they do in the postseason. That's what we judge the Dallas Cowboys on. Their season is going to be considered a failure or a success based on what they do in the postseason. But the fact that they were able to come in week 1 and annihilate the New York Giants the way they did gives me more reason to feel optimistic about their chances at being able to make it out of the NFC. When you're expected to be one of the best teams in the NFL, you got to play like it. You got to dominate the teams that you're better than. And that's what Dallas did against the New York Giants. Great win for Mike McCarthy and company. Terrible loss for the New York Giants, man.